Hello my fellow chef knives enthusiasts. In this video I'm going to unbox, use, sharpen, then use again and review this Masakage Yuki 240mm Gyuto by Yoshimi Kato. Winter is coming! This line has been named Yuki, which means snow in Japanese. These blades were originally made by Yoshimi Kato. He was a bladesmith who made knives for over 50 years. Yoshimi Kato was teacher of none other than Yu Kurosaki and was one of the original founders of the Takofu knife village in Echizen. But for about the past 6 years, these Yuki blades are forged by Yoshimi Kato, the son-in-law of Yoshimi Kato. Yoshimi Kato is the third generation Kato and master blacksmith at Kintaro. He's producing knives under his own name and for brands such as Masakage. After taking over Yoshimi Kato's company in 2017, Yoshimi Kato has built a reputation with his stunning heat-treated metallurgy. Yoshimi Kato was once a project manager, and his planned and precise design and production shows a real eye for detail and drive for perfection. His R2 SG2 Black Damascus series is among his most iconic. To a lot of vendors, makers and users, Yoshimi Kato knives are some of the highest quality blades from the Takofu knife village, the epicenter of Japanese blacksmiths. As one of Takayuki Shibata's knife-making collective of Masakage bladesmiths, Yoshimi Kato is responsible for making the Yuki, Kiri and Koishi line of Masakage knives. I already have made a video about my Masakage Kumo Nakiri, forged by Takumi Ikeda, and in that video I go in depth about the Masakage brand and knives. So if you want to know more about the Masakage brand and knives, you should check out that video as well with this beautiful Masakage Kumo. But in this video I'm just focusing on this Yuki. Let's see what's inside the box. First thing I noticed taking this knife out of the box is that it's super light. The handle is an oval handle. Not my personal favorite. I mean, I don't have anything against it though. I just prefer the octagonal type of handles. But it's a beautiful handle. Some might say it kind of looks and feels cheap, and I can understand that. I don't necessarily agree. I like light handles and I like the look of unfinished wood. The Paka wood ferrule is a nice touch for practical purposes because it has antibacterial properties, anti-impregnated barrier at the tang. Make sure there is no stray liquid entering the handle. Really nice fit and finish on this simple but effective handle. Now let's look at the blades. Yeah, this is a nice blade. Yeah, it's pretty. This knife is not my knife. Again, this knife is from Kevin De Leo, part of a bunch of knives that he borrowed to me to make these videos with. Since Kevin De Leo has used this knife himself already, I also get to use it. Let's take this baby out for a spin.
Chili pepper. It doesn't bite into the skin of a chili pepper by itself. So the toothiness of this edge, yeah, is not up to my liking. At the front it just slides off the chili pepper.
It's a bit disappointing to make a video without experiencing the potential cutting feel of a knife. I know just by holding this knife, the reputation of Yoshimi Kato, and looking at the blade geometry of this knife could be a very satisfying performing knife. If only this knife had a crisp edge on it. So I just contacted Kevin and Leo and asked if I can put this knife on the stones. Permission was granted, so let's go and put a nice crisp edge on this blade. The knife has a really nice, pretty consistent, crisp edge, if I may say so myself. You can clearly see the contrast between the somewhat polished edge that I put on it and the patina on the core steel. I'm not by any stretch of the word a great sharpener, but I definitely don't suck at it either. I know how to maintain all my knives myself. The shirogami steel on this blade is very easy to sharpen. It didn't take me a lot of passes to create a nice burr on the whole edge, and I don't want to brag, but yeah, this knife has a sharp edge right now, screamingly sharp.
There you go. This is what I'm talking about. Now it just bites right into the chili pepper skin. No pressure whatsoever. It's all the edge doing this work. Oof. This is definitely sharp now. No effort at all. The knife does exactly what I want. Now the lightness and nimbleness of this knife paired with the sharp edge. Now it's a beast. Oh, like butter. I need slices, but I just want to try the tip. That tip. So thin, so sharp. Unfortunately, I don't have anything else in the house that I can cut. So there you have it. It's definitely a really nice knife to work with. Very light and super nimble.
I really like the balance point of this knife. It's just a little bit in front of the pinch grip. The magnolia wood and baka wood handle are extremely light. That's why the knife feels a little bit front heavy, which I like a lot. It is quite tall at the heel, so you definitely have enough knuckle clearance, and the profile in general is just pretty good at anything. I personally would prefer a little bit more of a flat spot. The grind on this knife is really nice. I mean, it is thin, it's really nice and thin behind the edge. It's not a laser, but definitely not a workhorse either. I think this is a nice in-between type of grind. It's thinner than many knives that I've ever held in my hand. Yeah, it will definitely perform well. The rather thin geometry and nimbleness of this knife gives me that food scalpel type of vibes. I could probably perform brain surgery on broccoli with this one. That hand-chiseled kanji is very pretty. It's put on the blade very modestly, but it still stands out for me. Hand-chiseled kanji always makes a knife stand out compared to knives with stamped or laser engraved kanji or whatnot. I like that the neck is quite thick, but the knife then tapers down pretty nicely and becomes really thin at the tip. Doesn't disappear, but it's really thin. And as with many Takufu knife village knives, it has a signature curve and slightly rounded choil. The nashiji finish is very subtle, almost invisible actually, but if you look closely you can kind of see why they gave it the name Yuki. Doesn't take too much of a stretch of the imagination to see the resemblance with snow. But to be honest, I've seen nashiji finishes on other knives that look quite similar and are not named after snow or are not called Yuki. The product is not the product anymore, it's the story behind it. So I do get it from a marketing perspective. Unfortunately, I didn't have anything dense to cut with this knife, but I assume that this knife is not prone to wedging, especially with the crisp edge that it has right now. It would not really wedge through carrot or sweet potato. Holding this knife, it feels like it's gonna be a beast. It's just gonna fly through anything. And it kinda does, but it's not completely effortless. It's not that you can't do cool things with this knife, but it's a little bit, how can I say this gently? It's a little bit bland. It could use just a little pinch of salt. It didn't give me that that wow feeling while cutting with it. It's definitely not a bad performer. It's just that I expected it to feel a little bit more effortless, but it does well. It does really well. These are very reasonably priced knives. You could say that these Masakage Yuki are the budget Masakage, because these are the most reasonably priced knives in the series of Masakage knives. And for the price point of this Masakage Yuki, you are getting a really well-made knife. For a knife under $300, you get a lot of bang for your buck. If this would have been my first artisanal handmade Japanese blade, I would definitely not be disappointed in myself. Personally, I have tasted so many sweeter fruits already, so I'm not that much overwhelmed or impressed by this knife, but I definitely like this knife. And I think there are people that will love this knife. I personally don't love it. If you are, let's say, a newbie in the Japanese knife world, looking for your first Japanese knife or maybe your second or third, I think this knife would be a nice introduction to Japanese knives. Not too thin and lasery for a beginner. I think it would be rather easy to own and relatively easy to maintain for a beginner. This would be a really nice beginner knife to eventually end up in the rabbit hole like me. Don't do it. Don't you think about following me in the rabbit hole. So there you have it. These were all my opinions on this knife. You don't have to agree with me. Like with everything, it's better to form your own opinion. These were just my thoughts on this knife. I want to thank Kevin De Leeuw again for borrowing me this knife, giving me the opportunity to use it and to actually sharpen it as well. I don't know if I would trust anybody else to sharpen my knives. I have to hurry on to the next video. Thank you for watching this one. See you in the next one. And always remember, sharp knives matter. Bye folks.